The news that Yannik Sinner will not be in New York.
Yeah, it's quite a shock, to be honest. We knew that he was resting, but I thought that whole idea was to get ready for the US Open.
When you dominate the tennis world, you believe you can outrun the physical limits of your own body, until the greatest warrior in the sport's history delivers the cold reality. Nadal finally reveals why Yannik Sinner's US Open dreams are in grave danger after a shocking right knee injury. Look at how fast the untouchable world number one was brought to an abrupt halt. Just weeks after lifting his fifth career Grand Slam crown at Wimbledon, Yannik Sinner looked completely invincible. He had built an unshakable lead at the top of the ATP rankings and appeared ready to sweep the North American summer hardcourt swing. But behind the scenes in Milan, emergency examinations on his right knee triggered an immediate crisis. At Milan's Physioclinic, under Professor Gianluca Melegatti, 4 hours of intense evaluations confirmed the worst: severe knee inflammation. The fallout hit the tour with devastating speed. Sinner was forced to withdraw from the Canadian Open in Montreal. Days later, he dropped an official bombshell on social media, pulling out of the Cincinnati Open with an agonizing confession: "My right knee has been bothering me, and even though we have been working hard with my medical team, I have to accept that I'm not ready to compete yet." While the Italian superstar rushed to J Medical in Turin to undergo intense shockwave therapy, Rafael Nadal's past warnings about hard court wear and physical limits resurfaced across the tennis world. Nadal knows better than anyone that when a player faces knee inflammation, fast acrylic concrete offers zero forgiveness. Nadal has lived through 2 decades of knee trauma, patellar tendinitis, and career-threatening joint degeneration. Nadal warned that when life and the physical body decide to test an athlete, dominance can vanish overnight. Entering a grueling 7-round best-of-5 set Grand Slam on hard courts without tournament conditioning is an astronomical gamble. The historical precedent standing against Sinner is terrifying. Former world number 4 Greg Rusedski sounded the alarm, highlighting that jumping straight into the sweltering heat of New York without a single warm-up match leaves an athlete completely untested under scoreboard pressure. Since the Masters format began in 1990, virtually no men's singles champion has ever conquered the US Open after skipping both Montreal and Cincinnati. Meanwhile, Carlos Alcaraz, working under head coach Samuel Lopez, is also battling back from wrist tenosynovitis, turning the entire draw on Arthur Ashe Stadium into total chaos. Is Yannik Sinner walking straight into a career-altering physical collapse in New York, or can the world number one defy Rafael Nadal's chilling warning? The untold medical and tactical reality behind his knee treatment reveals just how close Sinner's championship empire is to the breaking point. The hardest surface in professional sports does not forgive weakness. It magnifies it. When you stand on European red clay, the crushed brick acts as a natural shock absorber. You slide into defensive corners, your momentum bleeds off gradually, and the physical torque on your lower joints is distributed smoothly across the surface. Grass offers its own cushioned, low-impact bounce. Acrylic concrete, however, is an entirely different beast. When your rubber-soled tennis shoe plants on hard court at 20 miles per hour, there is zero slide. There is zero give. The traction is instantaneous, violent, and unforgiving. Every sudden deceleration sends thousands of pounds of kinetic force reverberating straight up through the ankle, crashing directly into the patellar tendon and the delicate cartilage of the knee joint. That brutal biomechanical reality is why Rafael Nadal's past warnings about hard court wear suddenly became the focal point of the entire tennis world in August 2026. Nadal has spent over 20 years living through the destructive reality of professional tennis. He fought through chronic patellar tendinitis, Hoffa's syndrome, and multiple knee surgeries that repeatedly threatened to end his career. Nadal didn't mince words when describing the toll of modern hard-court tennis. If you want to talk about why people get injured, I tell you very clearly, when you push your body to the limit, you will eventually get injured. When the game is getting faster and faster, you get injured. When you play most of the year on hard courts, and the surfaces are harder for the body, you will injure yourself. Hard courts are not healthy for the body. Nadal lived that nightmare on the very grounds where Yannik Sinner now hopes to defend his world #1 crown. In the 2018 US Open semifinals against Juan Martín del Potro on Arthur Ashe Stadium, Nadal was locked in a brutal battle, but his compromised right knee buckled under the continuous friction of the concrete. Nadal was reduced to tears on court, unable to push off his leg, and was forced to retire mid-match. Nadal warned that knee tendinitis is not an injury that operates on a fixed calendar. It is not an injury that tells you 3 weeks off and you are back. It is maybe an injury that in 1 week you feel better, and in 6 months you still don't feel better. Now, at 25 years old and sitting at the pinnacle of men's tennis, Yannik Sinner is staring directly into that exact same physical abyss. The crisis that brought the tennis world to a standstill began in the immediate aftermath of Wimbledon. In July, Sinner produced a masterpiece on the lawns of London, capturing his 5th career Grand Slam title and extending his reign at world #1. But as he transitioned to the grueling North American hard-court swing, sharp pain flared inside his right knee. Sinner immediately flew to Milan for emergency medical evaluations. At the renowned Physioclinic in Milan, Sinner spent over 4 hours undergoing high-resolution ultrasound scans and MRI evaluations under the direct supervision of Professor Gianluca Melegatti, the former chief medical officer of AC Milan and one of Europe's premier sports physicians. The imaging revealed significant inflammation around the patellar tendon sheath and joint capsule. The immediate decision was made to pull out of the Canadian Open in Montreal to prioritize health. Sinner was rushed straight to Turin to enter the cutting-edge facilities of J Medical, the elite sports science center utilized by Juventus Football Club. Sinner underwent intense regenerative therapy, high-frequency focal shockwave treatments to stimulate cellular repair, and hydrotherapy sessions designed to keep his cardiovascular conditioning intact without loading the knee joint. Yet, when Sinner attempted to test the joint on concrete courts ahead of the Cincinnati Masters, the knee resisted. On August 9, 2026, Sinner released an official statement that sent shockwaves across the sport. "My right knee has been bothering me, and even though we have been working hard with my medical team, I have to accept that I'm not ready to compete yet. I'm now focusing on getting ready for the US Open." The withdrawal cost him crucial ranking points and stripped him of his title defense in Ohio, where he had lifted the trophy in previous years. But far more dangerously, it left the world #1 completely exposed, without a single hard-court competitive match before New York. The moment Sinner withdrew from Cincinnati, tennis historians and tactical analysts sounded the emergency sirens. Former world #4 Greg Rusedski analyzed the situation on off-court with Greg Rusedski, delivering a stark warning about the physical reality facing the Italian superstar. Rusedski emphasized that 5-set Grand Slam tennis in New York is unlike anything else in world sport. Arthur Ashe Stadium in late August is an asphalt sauna, with on-court temperatures frequently soaring past 95 degrees Fahrenheit and humidity levels choking the air. When you play best-of-3 sets in standard tournaments, you can manage your physical output. But when you are dragged into a 4.5-hour, 5-set slugfest in the 3rd round against a dangerous, unseeded baseline grinder, your physical conditioning cannot be faked. Rusedski pointed out that without competitive warm-up matches in Montreal or Cincinnati, Sinner's timing, footwork calibration, and deceleration patterns will be entirely untested under scoreboard pressure. And the historical record backing Rusedski's warning is staggering. Since the ATP Masters 1000 series was founded in 1990, not a single men's singles champion has ever captured the US Open title after skipping both the Canadian Open and the Cincinnati Open. 36 years of tournament data show that champion athletes require live competitive matches to adjust their lateral braking mechanics on fast, hard courts. If you jump straight onto the concrete of Flushing Meadows cold, your joints are forced to adapt under maximum tournament strain. In one of the most unbelievable coincidences in modern Grand Slam history, Yannik Sinner is not the only global superstar stepping onto Arthur Ashe Stadium without hard-court preparation. Reigning US Open champion Carlos Alcaraz also withdrew from Cincinnati, extending a 4-month medical blackout that began back on April 14th in Barcelona due to acute right wrist tenosynovitis. Inside the Murcia training camp, head coach Samuel Lopez has been working overtime to protect Alcaraz's joint. Samuel Lopez, who officially took over head coaching duties following Carlos's separation from former coach Juan Carlos Ferrero in December 2025, lowered Alcaraz's racket string tension by 4 pounds and modified his mechanics to prevent secondary tears. Both the world number 1 and the defending champion are entering the biggest tournament in the world under active medical supervision with 0 warm-up matches. That dual crisis has detonated the entire US Open draw into complete pandemonium. Novak Djokovic, hunting his record-breaking 25th career Grand Slam title, recognizes that the two dominant young titans who blocked his path for 18 months are suddenly vulnerable. Alexander Zverev, sitting at world number 2 in the live rankings, sees his greatest opportunity to finally capture his maiden Grand Slam title. The locker room smells blood in the water. Opposing coaches are not going to show sympathy for Yannik Sinner's right knee. They are already finalizing tactical game plans specifically designed to exploit his limited mobility. Consider how Yannik Sinner generates his devastating power. Sinner is the premier ball striker of his generation. He stands right on top of the baseline, plants his right foot with extreme force, and rotates his hips with lightning speed to crush flat, penetrating ground strokes into both corners. But to generate that kinetic energy, his right knee acts as the central fulcrum of his entire kinetic chain. If Sinner cannot bend deeply into his right knee, his ball height drops, his shot depth shortens, and his baseline penetration disappears. Opponents will deliberately avoid engaging in comfortable, rhythmic baseline exchanges from the middle of the court. Instead, they will deploy short, biting drop shots to force Sinner into sudden, explosive forward sprints, testing his ability to break on concrete with his right leg. They will push heavy, kicking topspin wide into his forehand corner, forcing him to slide, plant awkwardly, and absorb maximum deceleration torque. If Sinner hesitates for even a split second to protect his knee, elite returners will punish him. And then comes the mental battle. When an athlete knows that a specific joint is inflamed, subconscious hesitation creeps into every split-second movement. You don't push off with full commitment. You take an extra half step before changing direction. At tour level, a 5-millisecond delay in footwork is the difference between ripping a clean forehand winner and pushing an unforced error into the net. Yannik Sinner finds himself standing at the exact same crossroads that defined Rafael Nadal's legendary career. Do you push through the pain barrier, take the heavy anti-inflammatories, and risk catastrophic structural damage to chase Grand Slam glory? Or do you step back, listen to your medical team, and protect the next 10 years of your athletic prime? Nadal proved that you can win through sheer willpower, capturing 22 Grand Slams despite fighting a failing body for over half his career. But Nadal also paid an agonizing physical price, missing countless major tournaments and enduring years of grueling rehabilitation. Sports medicine specialist Dr. Ángel Ruiz Cotoro has repeatedly warned that chronic knee tendinitis, if ignored on hard courts, can lead to micro tears in the tendon fibers and permanent degeneration of the joint cartilage. Sinner's team, led by head coach Simone Vagnozzi, Darren Cahill, and physio Marco Panici, has built a protective shield around the young champion. They know that at 25, Sinner has at least a decade of championship tennis ahead of him. Forfeiting 2 Masters tournaments was a painful pill to swallow, but stepping onto Arthur Ashe Stadium under 70% capacity could turn a manageable inflammation into a career-defining disaster. On August 30th, 2026, the gates of Flushing Meadows will open to the world. Yannik Sinner will walk onto the blue concrete of Arthur Ashe Stadium, carrying the world number 1 ranking, the hopes of Italian tennis, and the weight of 36 years of tournament history on his shoulders. He will have to prove to Rafael Nadal, to Greg Rusedski, and to an aggressive field of hungry challengers that his generational championship heart is powerful enough to conquer both the finest players on earth and the physical limits of his own body. when an athlete reaches the summit of world tennis, the hardest battle is no longer against the opponent across the net. It is against the biological limitations of their own joints. Rafael Nadal's warning was not an emotional opinion. It was a diagnostic reality forged through 2 decades of physical sacrifice. When patellar tendons inflame and knee capsules swell, acrylic concrete turns every sudden sprint, lateral break, and 5-set war into a dangerous high-wire act. Yannik Sinner's team, led by Simone Vagnozzi, Darren Cahill, and Marco Panici, now faces the ultimate strategic dilemma. They can choose to play through the discomfort, rely on intense physical therapy, and attempt an unprecedented title run without hard-court tune-ups. Or they can prioritize the long-term longevity of an athlete who has already captured 5 Grand Slam titles by the age of 25. The stakes across the sport have never been higher, with Carlos Alcaraz also testing a recovering right wrist alongside head coach Samuel Lopez. The men's draw has been blown wide open for Novak Djokovic, Alexander Zverev, and an aggressive field of hungry contenders. The medical clearances are locked, the rehabilitation blocks are complete, and the tennis world is about to witness whether Yannik Sinner can conquer both the finest players on earth and the physical limits of his own body. Make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications right now so you catch our real-time tactical breakdowns and injury updates the moment tournament play gets underway.